The most valuable communicating I did was with our competitors. Because when Dad got into this, there wasn't a relevant bourbon industry. It had died. It never really came out of Prohibition very well. And while Dad had built a really nice niche in Kentucky, neither one of us could figure how it was going to get out of Kentucky. So we made a conscious decision that we had to build an industry first, and that we would accept the fact that if we did that, we were going to have competitors. And it's really amazing that working together, collaborating, we've been able to take share from both beer and wine over the last 30 years, which meant we did a pretty good job of repositioning bourbon into a product with connoisseurship.
Bill Samuels Jr., Chairman Emeritus for Maker's Mark, legacy leader, industry collaborator, and advisor to the future generation. And dare I say, instrumental in saving the bourbon industry from extinction. My name's Suzanne Reed, LBMC's Chief Marketing Officer and your host for Make It Count. In this episode, Bill and I explore how his father and mother started Maker's Mark, not the traditional story, how the bourbon industry survived after Prohibition, and where he spends his time these days. And who exactly is he mentoring? And while we are talking bourbon, not whiskey, and those of you from Kentucky can appreciate that, many of Bill's stories are just fascinating examples of business innovation and reinvention. All right, so thank you, Bill. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about leaders that build a vision or kind of create that legacy. And I say kind of, but Bill, I've got you on here, and I don't know who doesn't know the name Maker's Mark. So I'm going to say you definitely have created a legacy, but I have a feeling you've created more than just the Maker's Mark name as a legacy. So tell me, this is the question I ask every guest first, and you're going to chuckle, but I always ask, you're getting ready to retire in 3 months. What are you going to do? Well, I can't ask you that because you've already retired, but you're still doing stuff. So answer that question for us. What are you doing?
Well, the first thing, of course, was to get my son ready for the bows and arrows that were going to come at him, and really to make sure that he was known and received in the industry and in the company. The next thing I did was kind of get myself ready to be the volunteer, a helper, which meant don't talk as much and only talk to him about business. But we got there, and just exactly the right age, I got to connect in a serious way with my grandchildren. And they're all smart as hell, and they're all doing really well in school, which I really didn't. So I'm reliving all the things I wanted to be in college through 5 grandchildren.
I love it. You covered a lot of ground there. But what I love the most is everything you talked about was paying it forward. And that there sounds like there's a little bit of fun in there for you, reliving some things through your grandkids, right?
I enjoyed every day of working, which is why I really didn't have very many hobbies. And when I hurt my back, I couldn't play golf, so that was the end of the one hobby. But, I couldn't wait to get to work every day.
I love it.
And I'm still the first one in the office, and I'm 86 years old. I don't do as much, but I'm here.
You're there. You're there. Well, and that's a impression of leadership and a legacy right there.
Well, that could be it. It depends on, you should be talking to my son. He might say I'm a little too active, but I work hard to calm down and not get in his way.
Well, I love it. So give us a little bit more about, how do you think you helped shape Maker's Mark?
Well, first, the innovation, the heavy lifting had already been done. Mom and Dad created a hobby, something for my father to do. After he got out of the Navy during the Second World War, he had already sold the family distillery, which made pedestrian whiskey. That would be the polite way to put it. And he was going to retire. Mom decided he needed to get out of the house. He always wanted to see if he could create a really great tasting bourbon. And he didn't have any money. Banks wouldn't lend him any money, so he did it as a hobby. And the hobby caught on. in Kentucky with a lot of help from Mom. She came up with the name, designed the package, and many, many other things while not working, but doing a lot of bossing. And so when I got there after law school, it was 1967, I committed to work 1 year. I really wanted to be an intellectual property lawyer and was convinced by one of our competitors to go home. And that was Jack Daniels' great nephew, who was the chairman of Jack Daniels down in Nashville. And that's where I went to law school. So I saw an awful lot of him during those 3 years. He bought me an awful lot of steak dinners, and I just adored the guy. So when he said, go home and do for Kentucky whiskey what my family had done for Tennessee whiskey, that was a challenge that I just could not resist.
Here's where I have to ask this question. I'm a Kentucky girl, but I live in Tennessee now. Whiskey and bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what Kentuckians think about whiskey and bourbon and the Jack Daniels.
All bourbons are whiskeys, but not all whiskeys are bourbons. It's just like automobile and Chevrolet. All Chevrolets are automobiles, but not all automobiles are Chevrolets. So whiskey is the top category as far as differentiating from vodka and wine and beer and other things. And then bourbon really happens to be the corn version of that, most of which remains made in Kentucky.
I love it because that's how I've always heard it. But if it's bourbon, it's Kentucky.
Well, and we work hard at that. And that's, when you sent me the questions about communications and all, I'm thinking, well, hell, the most valuable communicating I did was with our competitors. Because when Dad got into this, there wasn't a relevant bourbon industry. It had died. It never really came out of Prohibition very well. All bourbons were, none of them had any style or class, and they weren't thought of very highly by the consuming public. And while Dad had built a really nice niche in Kentucky, neither one of us could figure how it was going to get out of Kentucky. So we made a conscious decision that we had to build an industry first, and that we would accept the fact that if we did that, we were going to have competitors. And so we made a conscious decision to work hard to bring competitors into the industry. And we worked together on all of our early marketing to outshine beer and outshine wine. And it's really amazing that working together, collaborating, not violating any Sherman antitrust acts, but we've been able to take share from both beer and wine over the last 30 years, which meant we did a pretty good job of repositioning bourbon into a product with connoisseurship. And I give an awful lot of credit to the other distillers. There were 4 or 5 of them in the beginning, and now there's maybe 30 that really make a difference. This idea of pulling the competitors together to help make pie really was not an original idea, even though you never see industry doing that. It really started when I was a kid, and Dad would reach out to his friends, all of whom were competitors, and they actually helped him get started. They would send engineers down, they would send maintenance people down, and they were just friends helping friends. And so when I got in the position of guiding our destiny, it was pretty easy. We didn't have a destiny unless we could grow beyond Kentucky. We had to do it together.
That collaborative spirit and talking about creating an industry, those things probably still go on today, but that collaborative spirit of working together, what do you think leaders are missing these days when we talk about some of those things?
I think with us, it was uniquely easier than some because our enemies were not each other. They were the Southern Baptist Church. They were the Anti-Saloon League. They were Carrie Nation. They were the Women's Christian Temperance Union. And most of our legislators, when I started in 1967, Kentucky only had 10 wet counties out of 120. So that was the environment. It seemed to me the only chance we had to become a national brand. Dad had already created a wonderful product. My leadership was going to be do everything possible to do what Mr. Hap Motlow of Jack Daniels challenged me to do, and that was to make it a viable, highly respected international brand. I didn't get there. I got as far as national. We have earned the awards nationally, and when I handed it off to my son, I said, Rob, your job is to hang on to the values, keep us in a position where we are non-union so that all of our people talk as equals, including us, and let's become a highly respected international spirits brand. And that's what he's working on.
A great story. I also heard you tell another great story where you talked about, and I think your exact word you used were sissy. Sissy.
Yeah,
What?
we're all Scotch-Irish. And the one thing the Scotch-Irish do, that they kind of hang on to tradition, sometimes a little bit longer than necessary. And we started making whiskey. Matter of fact, my great-grandfather actually made whiskey for George Washington's army. He was a captain in the Continental Army, was with Washington, and he was on 6 months, off 6 months. He made sure he was off during harvest. That's when you make your whiskey. And after the war, we came to Kentucky, and we just kept making that wild whiskey because our customers were the mountain men, and they weren't interested in refinement. And we gave them exactly what they wanted. And it had a tendency to blow your ears off if you drank too much of it. And we weren't alone. And we went all the way into Prohibition with that mentality. And what happened during Prohibition is Canadian whiskeys did not have Prohibition. Scotch whiskey, Irish whiskey did not have Prohibition. So when Prohibition was over, we had to change our ways and die, because that was when the Kennedys started bringing in fine Scotch whiskeys and all, and the American people said, oh my God, this stuff is so much better than bourbon. And that's really what Mom and Dad did. They just stopped doing what they were doing and said, let's start over so we can be relevant in today's market.
What do you think some of your biggest legacy pieces have been, not just in Maker's Mark, but just in general on the people around you?
I'm a great fan of Thomas Jefferson, and I've been amused by the 3 things he put on his tombstone. Probably the first thing I would put on my tombstone would be the managing of our barrel inventory against sales expectations. Early on, I decided that one person needed to do that, not a committee. And we need to be conservative, because every distillery that had gone out of business in Kentucky had been over exuberant on the forecasting end, and they had ended up with rickhouses full of bourbon and no money in the bank. And we're going through a little bit of that now with the entrepreneurs that got in to make a quick buck. They're peeling off at about 50 a week now. But those of us that really set the foundation for the industry are doing really well. And I'm proud, I'm excited about every one of them.
Do you see a new trend coming for the bourbon whiskey industry, especially now that there is more of an international global aspect to it? Do you see that changing?
Well, everything needs to change every 30 years or so, because our customers are much, much younger than me, about a third as old as I am. And that requires new blood. The best thing that's happened during the bourbon boom from 95 to just a few years ago was it brought an awful lot of talented young people into the industry. And we never had that before the 90s. And so I have every confidence that that group, including my son, who's young, can actually keep the plate spinning with new offerings and new ways of talking about great whiskey. I think the whiskeys that we're making and the contributions to agriculture, because flavor starts in the fields. It don't start with the machinery. And we as an industry are in the process of helping the agriculture industry bring flavor back to the grains, especially wheat. I'm excited about that. I know young people are very concerned about our environment, as they should be, as we are. I mean, when your basic ingredients are nothing but water, yeast, and grain, you better be concerned.
I love that, and how it impacts other industries. It's a great way to kind of look at that from a bigger perspective.
Well, let me give you just a little simple example. The area around the distillery doesn't have a lot of topsoil, okay? So it was traditionally used for cattle. Then the bourbon boom started, and we wanted our grain grown around the distillery. Now, Dad selected the distillery he did because he could completely control the watershed. Small farm, couple of 100 acres, main factor, control the water. Own the water and control the shed. And so when we started getting grain farmers around, we needed to start bringing in experts to teach them how to push hydrogen down in the soil, how to preserve the topsoil with non-tilling, and leave the chemicals back at Cargill and these other companies and just go it alone. And it's worked very well, and that's spreading. I know we've committed to bring over 1 million acres back, rejuvenate 1 million acres in the next 5 years. So, and that has nothing to do with whiskey, but it's got a lot. Think about our customers. They're restaurateurs. What are they interested in? Ingredients. Same ingredients, same thing we're interested in. So it's a natural partnership. Restaurateurs see people every day, and we make a lot of noise with our marketing. And together, I think we can change a lot of things on the farm.
I really like that. And I don't think many people think about that, how it all does kind of work together, right?
Yeah, it's simple. There's no magic in it at all. You just got to be committed to it. Now we've got an incredible need to preserve the soil around the distillery, because the best whiskey's made when the grain and the water come from the same soil.
Almost a symbiotic relationship, right? If you go back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have 2 more important questions for you. What would your advice be to your younger self, knowing what you know now at 86? Would you tell your younger self anything different? Or do you tell your grandkids something that you wished you'd known at the age they're at?
I spend a lot of time with my grandchildren, and mainly in the area of future accomplishment. Plan. And there's certain things, especially the girls, most of them are girls, that it's all about education, marriage, and then children, in that order, and do well in school, but have fun and focus on stuff that will allow you to support yourself. And then I give them all personality tests so I can pretty much help guide what they're going to be really good at.
I love that. Do you think any of them are poised to follow
Absolutely.
you and your son? Look at.
Well, we've got 4 in college, and they're all A students, as everybody is today with the lowering of the standards. But I think my grandson's too smart for the business. He's studying physics, and I think all of the girls would be natural candidates. I mean, they're really good students. They love working, and they love me just telling them about life around the next turn.
I love that. Okay, the most important question. Do you have a favorite drink? Is it Maker's Mark?
Well, not exactly. My favorite drink at 86 is milk.
Oh.
And a Maker's Mark Old Fashioned would be number 1 if it's well made. If I don't trust the bartender totally, I go to the simpler drink, which is the Manhattan.
Okay.
I have some pretty awful doctors that limit me to a couple every other day, which is medically required.
Well,
as they try to keep me on the top side.
Your family has created an amazing brand. And obviously, as a marketer, that's very exciting for me to see and hear the stories of the collaboration and how your grandmother and your mom were involved. And it wasn't just, a business idea. It really started out of a love and a hobby and necessity. Yeah. And I think those make it even more sweet. And the fact that family is still involved in the business. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I know our audience will too. Bill, thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Suzanne.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, please follow, rate, review, and share Make It Count wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Learn more at lbmc.com/podcast.